Fox News is leaving its big noon kickoff show in Boulder for a second week, even though the game they're airing is in Utah. That big noon kickoff show is their morning show in Boulder. The game is kicking off at 8. The now expectation, though not confirmed, is that the Pat McAfee show will be in Boulder, and SportsCenter itself will also be in Boulder, as well as First Take. ESPN is just basically relocating from Bristol for the day to be in Boulder, because this is not the biggest show in town. This is the biggest show in the country, Sandy.
With the possible exception of Aaron Rodgers' injury on Monday night, and I say possible exception, there is no doubt that this week and last week, the biggest sports story in the country, the Colorado Buffaloes under Coach Prime starting 2-0.
And it's going to be 3-0, barring something bizarre. Probably multiple bizarre things would have to happen.
And doing what the Broncos certainly didn't do and can't do at this point, and that's draw a rating commensurate, basically equal to Texas, Alabama, which was a game played this past Saturday night between two ranked teams with considerable doubt as to the outcome. In fact, it turned into a game that Texas basically dominated and won 34-24. Playing at noon Eastern Time, 10 Mountain Time, Colorado drew against Nebraska in a game that was never in doubt, virtually as good a rating as Texas at Alabama. Who could have imagined that even a month ago, heck, 2 weeks ago? And there are at least 3 reasons why CU is a bigger story than the Broncos right now, and you may be able to add to this list. They are simply more exciting and more charismatic. That's number one.
Unquestionably that.
Number 2, the impact is already astronomical. The Broncos, by the way, also hired a new coach with, in some ways, just about as big a challenge as Deion Sanders faced in Boulder.
And with more credentials.
Taking over a 111 program, and this is a proven coach on the NFL level who's won a Super Bowl, won more than 150 games in 15 years out of the 16 he spent as a head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So far, no discernible impact. I know it's early. But almost regardless of what happens from here on out, the impact from Deion Sanders has already been felt. Deion Sanders talking this week about how they are getting a quote-unquote absurd number of recruiting calls. Not making those calls. They're getting calls from kids who want to come and play for Colorado. Number 3, and this is, I'll admit, somewhat subjective. My assessment is that as arrogant as Deion Sanders seems to some, he has backed it up. And I believe the CU team at this moment projects more confidence than arrogance. I think it's the other way around with the Denver Broncos, who have had 6 straight losing seasons and may be well on their way toward a 7th straight losing season and an 8th straight year out of the playoffs, whose arrogance far outstrips the actual confidence with which they play.
You have, according to at least the odds in Las Vegas right now, the number 4 and number 5 most likely players to win the Heisman Trophy on the same team in Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders.
No other school has that.
No, it's not even close. The 2 different players, they could not be more different, even though they connect, obviously. Sanders, 90 passes without an interception. That's the longest current streak in the NCAA this season. Phenomenal statistical performances. Some of those to Hunter. Hunter is doing something we haven't seen in decades, excelling on both sides of the ball. And I think your point is really fair. The Buffs do not, to my mind, seem arrogant. They seem confident. And there's a difference. Now, could that change over time? Maybe. but it hasn't gotten there yet. And this game up in Boulder this weekend is not likely to provide a major challenge. But it will be interesting to watch, not only because the national media will, of course, spin up the great history of the rivalry, trying to make it seem a little bit, this version of it, 2023, seem more exciting than it is. But I don't even know if they have to push that anymore. People are just wanting to watch Coach Prime, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and the University of Colorado in one of the most, admittedly, and I'm a little biased, but we've talked to TV people who will tell you that, Boulder is a beautiful place to photograph for a football game. It ends up being a very compelling watch, even with that late a start, enough that two networks, one that doesn't even have the rights to the game, is going to be staying there. I can't recall that happening. And this is only their third game. Now, things could rapidly turn around. Obviously, they have Oregon and USC after that. This team could go from 3-0 to 3-2 in a heartbeat, and that wouldn't be anything of a shock. In fact, that would be the expectation, I would think, based on the rankings, based on everything that we know about these teams. But that doesn't seem to matter because now, because they've started off so well with the 2-0 start and the 3-0 start, they have already validated Sanders' approach. All the things that people said couldn't work are already proven wrong. You have two Heisman caliber players. You are beating teams that at least a year ago nobody would have thought you would have beaten. And all the idea, well, you can't put a team together that fast. Are you sure? Well, you can't put together that build all this sort of culture. Are you sure? You had Jimmy Horn talking about Nebraska, buying into the fact that there's no red allowed in the Champions Center, asking what he hated about Nebraska, and says, I don't really know, but I hate him. There is a culture being built, and it is as simple as Colorado versus the world. That's the culture that Deion Sanders is building.
And there may be some chinks in that armor that develop over time. Understood. But right now, the two biggest new stars in major college football are Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. New stars. The two biggest new stars in our city, professionally, collegiately, on any level. Perhaps not only in this city, but in this state. Perhaps not only in this state, but in this region. Are the aforementioned Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
Have you
right
been? Have
now,
you
new stars?
Personally, I know that when people text me, when they ask me questions, friends or family, whatever, all everyone asks me about is Shedeur Sanders first and Travis Hunter second. It's the first two athletes I get any questions about. Not Russell Wilson.
No.
Not Javonte Williams.
No.
Not any of the Denver Broncos. It's those two guys in that order. And
not even Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain.
No.
The two biggest stars currently playing in Denver sports, and the contest would effectively involve just CU and the Broncos.
Right. For a couple more weeks, and then you have to involve Nathan McKinnon and Miko Randon, and soon enough Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray.
Come along. Yes, right. Understood. But the two most talked about athletic figures right now, this week in this city,
and it's blotting out the
isn't
sun.
A close third, are Sanders and Hunter, or Hunter and Sanders. Now, Sanders being the quarterback probably gets maybe a slight edge.
He gets the most.
But Hunter plays both ways. 274 snaps in 2 games that he's taken. One in extreme heat and humidity in Fort Worth, Texas.
You were there.
And the
you sat
other
through it.
in 85-degree heat, at least during the afternoon portion of the game this past Saturday. And he plays 274 snaps, 129 on offense, 136 on defense, and for good measure, 9 plays on special teams in 2 games. 274 snaps he's taken in 2 games. It is one of the more incredible athletic feats that any of us have seen around here. To play on both sides of the ball, on offense, more than 81.5% of the snaps, and on defense, almost 96% of the snaps. and he is a star both ways. He has already accumulated more receiving yards in 2 games for Colorado than he did last year, all year for Jackson State.
He's only 4 receptions short, too. That's it.
He's 4 receptions short and 4 touchdowns short.
Yep.
So he has some catching up to do.
I kind of feel that those will come because the average per catch has gone up.
I think he will get
on defense alone. The comparisons.
I think he will get the 5 catches on Saturday night that put him past last year's total of 18.
Yeah,
he'll get to 19, maybe even 20 or more on Saturday night. I don't know that he'll score 4 touchdowns. So he still may have some work to do there.
To be totally honest,
it's not impossible, I suppose. But 2 games receiving, 11 catches for 119 yards at TCU, 3 catches for 73 yards here against Nebraska on Saturday. He is an electrifying player, and the quarterback probably operating against a better defense this past Saturday in Nebraska.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Was more dynamic than he had been against TCU. And against TCU, he threw for more than 500 yards.
School record. It is remarkable. And both of these guys, in Sanders' case, and I wrote about this earlier in the fall on Mile High Sports, that Shedeur Sanders was going to have the single-season passing records in the bag. I felt like as long as he's healthy, that's going to happen.
By mid-season?
Possibly. Quite frankly, possibly. Remember, the single-season passing record is 3,200 yards by Sifo Lufau back in 2014.
He's almost
only
a third of the
2
way
guys
there.
have ever gotten to 3,000 in a year. He has 900 plus now. It is a remarkable run, and depending on what the Buffs do, they may, to the chagrin of the Rams, they may look at this game and say, this is our opportunity to formally launch our Heisman candidacies for Shedeur and Hunter and have them just go bonkers on a Rams defense that simply doesn't have the speed to keep up with either of them. Or maybe Coach Prime calls the dogs off at halftime and make sure that everyone stays healthy and takes a break. I don't know.
You know what's amazing, though?
Either
Travis
way,
Hunter
you're going to look.
is not the leading receiver.
No.
On the University of Colorado
That's the amazing
squad.
part. Gosh, they're deep. It's Xavier Weaver. And Xavier
He is
Weaver
the
by
leading
almost
receiver.
100 yards, mind you.
Yeah.
It's been pretty remarkable that the depth and the speed is ridiculous. And here is Jimmy Horn under the radar.
Oh, by the way.
19 catches to lead the team, sitting, just playing in the underneath routes wide open.
The Broncos don't have, at the moment, even one receiver as good
as any of those 3.
The 3 leading Colorado receivers.
And I agree. And I am fully aware of what Cortland Sutton's accomplished. If you were to tell me you had a game to play this Sunday, you're going to tell me you wouldn't pick one of those 3 guys?
I'd pick all 3.
That's why they're the biggest story. This is the biggest deal in Colorado sports. Enjoy it. And, of course, now it coincides with the Rocky Mountain Showdown. And, look, for the Rams, I get it. You don't want to get absolutely clobbered, but the attention is still good because everybody involved in that broadcasting team is invested in making this game seem big, which means they're going to make the Rams seem big. They're going to talk about how their upward trajectory is going. So it's a good sign for all of Colorado football. This is the rising tide that lifts all boats. Unfortunately, it just doesn't carry over to the NFL level, at least not for the Denver Broncos. But this is why this is the story, and it's been a long time since we could say that about the University of Colorado.